Hello, everybody, and welcome to Keeping It Spiritually Simple. Today, I have a wonderful guest, Pamela of Higher Vibrations. She and I clicked a while back, I think, just via maybe one of her videos, and we just resonated. And so I joined her group, and we just kind of converse in that way. Sometimes I don't see her for months on end, and then I jump on twice in 1 week, and it is what it is. So, Pamela, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So tell us a little bit about how you got started on this spiritual journey. I mean, I know you have a lot of things in your tool belt as well, but how did you kind of get started on where you are in the here and now?
The shortest version, going back the shortest amount of time, well, initially, I should just say that I had a near-death experience when I was 4, which kind of started a lot of stuff. But the moment that I'm in now, I'd been urged by my guides and archangels and every energy that could possibly come through for at least a year to do a YouTube channel, and I didn't want to. I'm used to being on the other side of the camera. Like that just isn't. And I finally agreed to do it, and things have just, I've been following the guidance of it, and it's led to doing these Zoom meetings with people and helping them open their throat chakras. And it's been a beautiful guided journey. Like as soon as I stopped trying to control anything, you know, everything just flows, and it happens so perfectly that all you can really do is sit back and joyfully witness what's occurring, so that's my best answer. Is I was bullied into it by my guides.
Oh, I can so relate. I think we said you and I had a lot in common, but it's amazing when you can listen to divine communication, and then you're in divine step with the universe, and you don't have to really push anything. And I can totally relate to the bullying story. And I know in 2019 the guides were like, okay, we're going to show you a couple more courses to take, because in 2020 you're going to open up to the healing work. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm in cosmetic sales, I'm working 50 hours a week, how's this going to look? So I followed the direction. And then in 2020, I was vacuuming, and they had me turn and look at my computer, and they're like, you're going to get on that, and then you're going to do a YouTube channel. I'm like, what? Perfect enough to do a YouTube channel. What the heck am I going to talk about? I mean, who's going to do my hair and makeup every day? Kind of thing. And they were very adamant about, you are going to get on there when we tell you to get on there, and we don't care if you've brushed your teeth, you're going to do it. And that's how my stuff opened up too. So, and then it's just been like just divine opening, and it just seems like it's been such a natural pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the
That's so
energy
cool.
just flows through. So yeah, throat chakra, that's huge. It's huge. And I think we've talked about it in our groups about the high heart expanding.
Yeah.
And it's forcing us to connect with the higher registers and the realms, but reusing our throat chakra in a different way.
Right.
But we still have to learn how to speak in the old programming to be able to vocalize emotionally. So what would you speak on to about that?
The more that you can speak your authentic truth, the better. That loosens it and relaxes it. It makes it easier to move through. That's the as that. So the high heart is connected to the throat, as you said. And so in order for everything to flow, you have a proper foundation. The foundation needs to be fertile for this growth that's occurring. And so the issue, really, the barriers of the throat chakra, is that the vast majority of us, if not in this lifetime, some other experience, have had persecution kind of experience, and been taught to hold back your truth and to not speak and to not trust, to trust your own voice that moves through and comes through. And so the healing of that is really wherever you can. If you can't join a Zoom meeting, or if you can't participate in a live kind of thing, get on the live YouTube meetings. That's how I started. I that's how I started into doing this with other people. I am very introverted. I'm not this social butterfly. And I started to join Guardian of Orion's channel on his live events and chatting with others, just typing it in with other people who understood, and just this amazing connection that occurs, finding other people to talk to that are going through the same things that you are. And as you speak it, it's it the morsel, the little seed that you put out there stretches out, unfurls to be this amazing thing once the motion begins in its speech. And by that, a lot of us who have been holding it back, are having difficulty in that area of our body, like dental trauma and like mouth stuff and throat stuff, thyroid. I've heard about people having to have their thyroid completely removed, and anyway, so all of these things are our body telling us, use it, use this, use this. And that's what all of these many of our physical maladies are, just that. Our body saying, this is an area that needs to be looked at. Look at me, look at me. And so these Zoom meetings that's what they're designed to do. And again, if you can't join something like that, jump on and just share your truth, talk to somebody, share your information too. I mean, I created an email just for that method, and I was able to start communicating with other starseeds. And the activations that occur in that, the liberation, the realization that you're not alone, that you're one of many, 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 and it's time. It's just so beautiful. So I don't know if that answered your question
No,
exactly.
it definitely answered the question. Thank you for sharing that. And it is important to jump on to some of these Zooms that may not feel so comfortable for you, just to even, if you need to just be introverted and silent and just listen to other people.
Yeah.
When you're ready to jump in, you will. But most of the time, you're going to find somebody else is speaking exactly or close to, or at least on a thread of how you feel in the moment. Yeah. And you're like, oh, and so every time you do that, the more you're activating your chakras to align, and the more you're also activating on how to use that throat chakra and the emotional components that are with that. I like what you said about the trauma and the drama and other lifetimes, possibly being persecuted, but we're really taught to contain and persecute in this lifetime. We have to raise our hand in the classroom. We can't interrupt an adult. You can't express yourself. And if you do it a certain way, you get sent to your room because you didn't know that wasn't the right way, but you learned through the drama and trauma of punishment how you're supposed to express as a child, right? And so by the time you're an adult, it either comes out in angry temper tantrums, like I'm going to force my way in here, but we don't learn how to harmonize everything that's going on. And there's a lot going on in the physical neck. I mean, you've got the spinal cord that attaches to the occiput, which is your whole life force, right? It attaches to the parts of the brain. You've got all your breathing, your scalenes in the front. You've got massive, strong muscles that come down and connect the shoulders, that work the jaw. I mean, you got the thyroid, the parasympathetic thyroid. You've got all kinds of things going on in there physically in this little tiny space. And we're always either under or over sticking out our neck. We haven't quite figured out where we can vocalize and express or be fully present in someone else's expression and be accepting of ourselves in that space. That makes sense. Because sometimes it's just listening to someone else's story, which is what I think, a lot of your higher vibration Zoom groups are. Everyone just kind of gets in there and, talks about all kinds of things, even the oddest things, like, I'm really uncomfortable being here right now. I don't like how this feels. And then other people can jump on and say, yeah, I can understand and relate to that. I felt like that at one point, but we learned how to maybe get out of the monkey mind and trying to diagnose it and dissect it with that emotion and maybe just marinate in the feeling of, hey, something's percolating around this area. And, you know, in anything that we do, Pamela, as we know, sometimes the first few sentences of a speech, we're as nervous as we can be. You know, you'll hear actors who seem like they're so natural go, oh, lights, camera, action. It's in that first few minutes that I'm a wreck every time. And you think, what? You do this all the time. But it's in those vocalizations that we're also filtering information of how people are receiving it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we are estimating or guesstimating how it's being received, and we look at it as, oh shit, I should just shut up. This sounds terrible, you know?
Mhm.
And your platform allows people just to keep going.
Yeah.
Just keep going and just speak it, talk it out, chip in, chime in. I think it's a wonderful platform that you were bullied into producing.
Yeah,
Those guides get on us, don't they?
they really do. They really do. And
Yes.
I love the lighthearted in exchange I get to have with these energies, you know, like I remember growing up, you know, a lot of us did with whatever religious doctrine we were brought up with. There's always like this, seeing most religions I'm familiar with, there's a reverence and a method of communication.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that way. Like it's so comfortable. It's so talking to your buddy or your uncle kind of feeling, you know, when interacting with all of them, you know, all the way up. And it's not disrespectful. It's sharing space with this energy. And the energy that comes through is playful and loving and comforting. And that is the biggest message that I've been getting over the past years is find your method of play. Go to that and do that thing, whatever it is that play is for you. When you're doing that, you're raising your vibration to your highest joy, which is the point. That's your mission, dude. It's all you got to do is be happy. And it sounds like a really simple thing until we start to find out we need to unlayer so many different barriers and blocks that we have accepted or taken on in some way in order to get to that point where you can, where you allow yourself to, like, having the joy of being in the sand and making a creation without feeling guilty for some reason. You know what I mean? And a lot of us were raised in that way. You got to a certain age, you can't play anymore, you know, and when we stop playing, we also stop imagining. And in imagination is also where we find the truth, the real truth. And so the blockage of it all. And that's what the biggest message is as a result. Play. Find the thing that you really want to do and allow yourself to do it. The cool side note of that is it's not that you're helping just yourself. In that place of raising your vibration, you can see it energetically. I can see it energetically now, where you can see the ripple
Mm-hmm.
of the energy, and it goes, and you can follow it. If you astral project, you can follow, it looks like percussion waves almost, and it goes, I mean, out, like all through the cosmos, and it affects everything by you sitting and playing in the sand or getting on a swing or collecting bugs or whatever it is that makes you feel like you're in play.
Yeah, I love
That's your
that. I love that. And you know, in the imagination, I call it the God space because there is no containment and confinement. You can just go. And I think one of the things that we've done to our children early on is the what I would call the constructive coloring, where everything has to be within the lines. And I know for me, I remember coloring outside the lines. I didn't know it was even wrong. I think I was probably 4. I had no idea that that was incorrect until I guess a teacher told my mother. And then I could hear my parents talking in the other room about that. And my dad was going, well, what's wrong with her that she's coloring outside the lines? And I
Whoa.
remember being outside the room going, what's wrong with me? What was wrong? Like, I don't understand. No one came back and said, hey, when you're going to color that page, these lines are your boundaries and
Right.
you can pick and choose any color in it. So of course I raised my kids to color outside the lines, color in the lines, and
Yeah.
all those things. So really it was a learning experience for me to improve upon myself. For a long time, I that kind of devastated me, and that was a trauma that had me squelch,
Yeah.
my voices. And you mentioned something earlier about, religion, and so many families are into religion, and they do what their parents told them to do, right? And then they follow suit with Sunday school or church or however you do it, and Bible study and whatever. And it's a very misunderstood language. So as a child, you want to ask questions. But for me, being one of five in a very religious background, you weren't allowed to ask them, or you were told right away, energetically, you don't ask, you don't question
Yes.
what's in this book. Later, I would come to find out that I don't think my mom knew the answers. So,
Yeah.
and then the nuns didn't know the answers, and they're like, yeah, you need to leave the room or something,
Right.
But we're taught when and how to express ourselves. So our fifth chakra takes a beating.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Front, back, sideways, and every which way. It takes a beating.
Yeah.
And as star seeds, I think, and of course, what does that exactly does that mean? We have star DNA in us, and we're here planting more and more information, and we're also connecting with the seeds that have come before us, right? So we're activating all of this energy just by being the column of light that we are. Now, if we can amplify that by using the heart center and the throat chakra, setting our intentions, how powerful is that? But I don't
Yeah.
know many people who are really dedicating themselves to, hey, come onto my platform and open this up. This is what we're going to focus on. Everybody jump in there and talk. And that's a lot of what your platform is.
Yeah,
I
thank
don't
you.
know if you intended it that way, but
Yeah. I
Spirit
don't.
did.
Yeah, that is exactly what happened. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was given some suggestive kind of suggestion kind of information of like, guidelines or how to get it going and what to do in certain situations. We've had, moments where I'm just like, well, now what? And like and guidance comes through. So yes, I would say 100% my job is to let go of the reins and kind of let it happen. And it's beautiful to watch the evolution that I have got to witness. I am so honored and so lucky to get to watch so many people, just like all of us have been. There's all this information and all of these questions and all of it's all but accepted as true that this is all happening. But we're still in like this bubble of like, do I tell anyone? What are they going to do? And then there's also the fear of consequence. If I speak this truth to family and friends, are they going to lock me up? Those types of things. And then these individuals come on like in this bubble that's like squished up of all this stuff. And then when they get to hear other people, like you said, you don't have to share, you don't have to have your camera on. That's one of the things that I have. That's part of my guideline. You don't have to have those things on, and if you want, you can type. And we'll have these people come on, and you can feel their energy of like, oh my goodness, and they're just listening, and they start to type, and then eventually they turn their audio on, and then eventually one day their camera's on and they're speaking and calm, and the energy that first came on is, holy crap, what is happening? Am I going crazy? Is the world crazy? I've been lied to how many times about what? Just all of that stuff. And it finally gets to release, and then they get to stand in their power. And while all this is happening, I get to watch. It's so beautiful.
That is so awesome. And you do, and you stand in witness of, and you also stand in energetic support of. You have created this platform where it's a safe haven. So you can come and share, and the topics can be very random,
Yeah.
all over the place, which is amazing. And of course, being incognito and not having your camera on allows people, okay, I feel stronger now in expressing through my typing. And then they gain the strength, like you said, to maybe now their camera comes on, maybe now the audio comes on, or maybe next week it's off because they're going through something there. So, it's nice to be able to have that safe space where people aren't like, well, what do you look like? Who are you? Why are you talking? It's like, it doesn't matter. You're there. And that's the key. Now, I know we talked about astrology, and I know you're not an astrologist per se, but you yourself, like me, have used it as a catalyst.
Yes.
I mean, I have been into astrology even when I wasn't allowed to read the horoscopes. I would read them and then hide it as a kid. And then once I got into my 20s, everything it was about a tarot, and it was about astrology, and it was everything outside of the religious box, right? And I used all of these tools and in sessions to be my power tools to help me to make decisions, to tune into my imagination, to allow the energies of chords that I didn't see, allowed them to become more aware of to me. And you don't look at it in a literal sense of you, but with astrology, I mean, back in the 90s, I was told, turn off the television, stop reading the newspaper and the news. You're too sensitive for all of that. And I didn't look at that as, oh, I'm so sensitive. I looked at that as like, wow, somebody actually picked that up through my chart and my session, because I was taught I had to read the news, I had to listen to it, so I had things to talk about with other people, that I wasn't left out of the loop of current affairs. But every time I would read them, it would bring my vibration down. So I felt zombified. I didn't like it. I would feel them talk about something weeks before. It would stick with me like, oh. And so it's been a huge catalyst for me. And I know you talk about different things astrology wise, like what's happening with the planets. And so do you use it as a catalyst as well?
Yes, I do. There's a few different things about it that I'm in agreement with you that earlier on, as if I read my astrology for the day, it just didn't apply, and it was very generic. And so I kind of gave it up as a soft science, like it was, entertainment. And then I started to, the 13 thing kept coming back in my head. I was guided 13, something about 13. And then one day I knew all this stuff, but I didn't put it all together. I realized that in our culture, at least where I'm living in this country, that 13 is hidden. 13 is hidden from everything. There are 13 moons. That's why there were 13 months and 13 signs. There were, but when they took those away, they also took away 13 from buildings. There it goes from 12 to 14. It's away from rooms in buildings. It goes from 12 to, and just everywhere that you look, it's hidden. And so, and then it's also in our month, oct. Okay, so that means 8, right? And sept means 7. September, October, and it just there was more to it. So anyway, long story short, I started to apply the 13th sign, and when I did that, everything made sense. In fact, we're in the 13th sign right now. I don't know how to pronounce that sign. I pulled it up, but it's Ophiuchus. That's the 13th astrological sign that they omitted from our experience during the reign of Caesar. The Julian calendar came from Caesar. And so anyway, adding in that, then all of a sudden everything makes sense. And so yes, I do. And also finding out more about, it's not just like you said, not just about what my sign is, the whole, like the natal chart. You can look it up for free. Just do a search engine for natal chart, and I'll show you. The most important thing I find in my natal chart is my north node. If you know what your north node is, okay, Your south node is where your soul has been. So that's like the experience that you've already done, you know, so you're already good with that. You've accomplished that task. Now you're moving into your north node. And so where your soul has come from and where your soul is going. Once you know what sign that was in, then you understand your next step. Turns out I'm in the space of a spiritual leader. Surprisingly, I don't feel like a leader at all. I'm just like along for the ride, and it's happening. It's been happening like that in my life for a long time, and not even realizing it until I looked it up. That was only a few years ago. And so since then, I've had a lot more trust and interest in astrology and astronomy. Also, whenever there's certain things occurring, I can feel them. I know this thing's happening, and then I'll go and find out about the planetary alignment or whatever it is we're in, right? And then it makes sense. It explains it, you know, and it consistently, not like it, you know, every once in a while kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
and speaking of, we are having a really amazing couple of days between starting on the solstice, moving into the 29th of all this cool planet stuff happening. So it's this particular solstice. I've been feeling the energy of the solstice as if it's already here for 2 months now, almost 2 months. I remember waking up and going, today's the solstice. I recognize this feeling. We are in this experience. And that was 2 months ago. So, and it's just increased every day. This particular solstice, it kind of, this past few weeks has kind of felt like the of a gate of light being flooding out, you know, and the light flooding out of this gate as it opens into this space that we're moving into. And the solstice is on Wednesdays, just in a couple of days. So, yay. There are much more ET type experiences occurring too for me and others. And there's a lot, not just seeing UFOs, or I think they call them something else now. I
It
don't,
doesn't
I never,
matter.
yeah, spaceships. You
Doesn't
know,
matter
and
what's socially acceptable or not. They're UFOs.
yeah, we know what that means.
Yeah. No,
So
I
there's
like what you're
more
saying
there.
because you know, the number 13 always intrigued me. And
Yeah.
so, you know, it isn't uncommon for Yeshua to come through and give me messages even as a kid. So I remember like first time I remember reading there was a New Testament out, a new version of something. And I kept saying, well, what was wrong with the other one? And, you know, my mom would say, well, they modernized it. And I would hear something like, you know, it was tampered with or things were taken in and out of it. I would hear things like, so and so said this, and the voice in the head would say, I never said that. I never said that. So one time I think we were going through all this 13 and, you know, going into building, oh, 13, oh my God, Friday the 13th, and Black Cat, this and that. And
Yeah.
I remember something just flying out of my mouth going, if Jesus had 12 disciples, what number was he? If Jesus had 12 disciples, what number was he? It just,
Amen.
I mean, and this is how it works with me. Spirit will come like literally what I think is through my head and out my mouth. And it'd be like pop. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm going, okay, well, that makes sense. I guess that point needed to be made. We're missing so many things because things are introverted. I totally agree with you. And then into the planetary alignment, you know, a lot of people wanted to look at that as witchcraft, you know, because they changed it more to astronomy. Oh, you can use it for weather, but you cannot use it for personal experiences or predictions or personalities or anything like that. So they put that underground behind the crystal ball and the gypsy in the corner and all that stuff. And many of us know we probably were those in many lifetimes, and we've also probably been the prosecutor as well. But here we are in this lifetime now saying, this is all making sense. Now, I don't get or read about the planetary alignment. My guides will tell me when energy's coming in. And I was told this whole past year that stuff was going to really build up into the end of the year. And it was going to be more of an energetic cleansing, releasing. There was going to be some whack-a-mole. Things were going to come to the surface. And they showed me the game whack-a-mole, and I didn't even know what that was when they showed it to me. But it all had to do with the shortest time of the year. And when in fact, this is the time when a lot of the darker agenda would use to change the frequencies of the incoming energies, right? By doing what? Keeping you 10 and 2, destination, buy, get in debt. Oh, but don't forget, be nice in your heart and keep giving till you have nothing to give, right? And I too, Pamela, have been feeling this energy. I've been feeling day and night for a couple months now, like a giddy kid. Like I'm like, oh, something's coming, it's coming. And then I can see the way the energy has changed and it's moving in a different way with a lot of more sparkles. I'm also seeing my guides in my room as orbs and symbols, and they're coming through. And depending on what twilight time I wake up, they're literally working on me. Now, if I didn't know this, I would wake up scared because it would look dark, right? And I would be like, oh shoot, what's that funnel? Or what's that thing right in front of my head going like this? And I would just recognize it and go, okay, no fear, no lowering my resistance to it, or thinking that it's something I don't know, so I fear it. So we are in the middle of a massive hotspot of influx of energy, And so you were starting to talk about the planetary alignment. I don't know if you know anything about it and you want to share, because I don't know a lot about that side of it.
Well, there's something that's significant. I feel like it's significant for the solstice in particular, that the let me actually find it. So where did I write it? I apologize.
No, take your time. Take your time.
The sun will directly shine over the Tropic of Capricorn on that day, and it popped up like that was really important. That it's like, I don't know if that's a typical thing, but when that came out, I just, like you, I get messages different ways. You never know how it's going to come. And when I was reading it, all of the words, I was reading it on my computer, all of the words were black against a white, and those words turned gold, but it never did it again. Like, it wasn't it, that was how it came, and that's important. So, and it was gold, it wasn't yellow, it was like shimmery, like magic, and like Christ consciousness energy. And speaking of that experience, just before I forget, this is important because it came through as a reminder to mention that when we when we discuss religion stuff, it's there's some really important and good stuff in there, just like Sandra said. However, there's a thing that happens in a lot of religions where whether they are doing it on purpose or not, are teaching that there has to be an intermediary between you and God. And that is not the case at all. God is connected to each of every one of us directly. There's nothing unique and different about individuals who can channel. We all channel all the time. You know, the other part of that, being taught to be disempowered and not have that power, is also not to trust self. And so what a lot of us are doing right now is learning to self-trust, to have trust in self, in your instincts, in the things that are coming through. God is the most purest, perfect love. And the opposite of that spectrum is fear. And, you know, over here, though, in the fear area, there's a lot of things that are very close to it, like shame, guilt, you know, putting self down in some way. When we go to this place of fear, we aren't stopping our ascension movement. It simply pulls us away from that higher vibrational state that we were in for that moment. And so a lot of us are moving in and having these experiences, and then our startlement just pulls our vibration down for a second. that doesn't mean that you're stopping your forward motion. I hope you don't mind that I just added that in there. That was important. I was supposed to mention it.
No,
So,
no, this is kind of an impromptu, you speak, I speak kind of thing. I
okay.
love it. I like what you're saying because I also believe that we've created both, right? And in each lifetime, we've been more than one than the other. And each lifetime, our God source light has been dimmed by all the in between blinds and shades and hiding of information. But sometimes we don't know what the pure source light feels like until we get into these shades of the opposite of that, right? So you don't know how good something is if you haven't experienced what you think might be rock bottom for you, right? And everyone's got a different rock bottom. And then to choose what feels better, what glides better, what appears and comes to you with more grace and ease, in which vibration that is. I think that's super important that you brought that up because we have been, and we could look at it as, you know, we've had things taken from us, we've been disguised and purposely enslaved. But you could look at all of that and be in the victim of it, or you can look at it and go, okay, well, I choose not to have any of that this time. Okay,
Yeah.
I already know about that. And then I can feel when my vibration dips. And it's my responsibility to work my dial. It's my responsibility to say that doesn't work for me. It's my responsibility as I awaken not to worry if my family and friends accept me for how I feel, because I don't really need to share all that information with them all the time anyway, right? Because we're taught that, well, if we step out of the family dynamics, then we're the black sheep and the weirdo, right? But technically, we're like that all of our life anyway. We just kind of went with the with the parade.
Right.
We went on with the parade of what family should be until we get old enough to make some changes within ourselves. But that's a common denominator between a lot of empathic, um, really truly well balanced starseed light workers that they've been taught that they're actually off balance, but you're not. You're in balance. You're in
Yeah.
balance. And it's okay to be over there because there's a lot more people like you over there than there are over there. You've just been taught over here was mainstream. It's
Right.
not. It's
Yes.
not. We get to change the way the world perceives things and the way we perceive the world. And the God source light right now, how I've described it is, yes, there's been invisible obstacle courses placed in front of us, right? There are lessons, there's things to learn. And then there's a lot that just sabotage the hell out of you. And I get the frustration and wanting to retreat and sink and feel like the whole world won't let me succeed and all of that. But some of that is being removed by our galactic and angelic family and friends that are here. A lot of them are our ancestors. A lot of them were put into place and the seeds were planted by us in other lifetimes before we came down the parachute and landed in this physical avatar. So we are getting those in deja vu. We're getting those as we platform and change. And right now, because of a lot of the work many of us have been doing, this energy is coming through like a powerhouse. And you're going to feel it one way or the other. It may not feel good to you because it feels weird, but the more you can clean your pipes and detox from what doesn't serve you, the more you clean out the garbage disposal, the more you can put through it and let cipher that doesn't serve you. And you don't need to keep going back and re-examining it. You could just allow this new energy just to be present.
Yes.
And be a present through you.
Exactly. And sometimes that light, when it first comes through, just like you said, feels disruptive because, people use the term dark night of the soul, and that's an archaic term. I think Freud coined it back then. What it truly is, the light is a light being shown on the soul. So basically, what's happening is this light is coming in. Basically, you're putting a floodlight into your house and turning it on. And in your house, you will then see the cobwebs in the corners. You'll see the piles that you just don't happen to notice because you've just gotten used to it or you've learned to walk around it. And it's saying, look. And it's not saying, it's not doing it to pass judgment, to cause you to feel bad about yourself or anything like that. It's simply showing you what needs to be addressed. And once that's addressed, then the next phase can occur for you. The light fills all of the spaces. And once all of the spaces are filled with light, then everything becomes easier, 100% easier. And so on occasion, the shedding of the relationships is something that is one of the hardest parts about those experiences. We'll find that we've been forcing a relationship to continue over time that's not benefiting either party. And if we're not serving something or they're not serving us, why are we doing it? No one really knows social agreement of some kind. So it's time. So we do watch these relationships shed, whether they be romantic or not. And so there is an emotional response to it. I know that the first experience I had, I thought I was dying. Like the physical response to all of this shedding. As you move through it, however, it changes it. You mentioned these barriers, these places that are being moved, and what it looks like. I was shown the visual I was given for that is, it's like a series of fences around our core where we start, right? And those fences have gates that we at some point intentionally closed so we could then open it when it was time to help us into the next space. If we can't, if we let ourselves move through to that next space without learning to open that gate, we won't be prepared for that space is all. It's not you're being limited. It's, why don't you play here and get used to here? And then when you're better at grade 2, then you can move to grade 3 or whatever. And then also when these things come through, these moments of energy that are really uncomfortable, or for whatever the experiences you mentioned it earlier, it sounds like it's hard, but it's really not. It's simple. Send love to it. And we're not ignoring it. We're not saying, ooh, that doesn't exist. I'm hiding that away because that's causing another imprisonment of another layer that will need to be moved later on. But simply as this unbalanced energy feeling comes in, or this, just, I love you. Just send I love you. You're not destroying it. You're not doing anything to it except giving it that love. And most often it will transmute it to something different for you in your experience. Otherwise it will flee. For things that are not of a love vibration cannot exist and stand within that vibrational space. Love is one of the most potent weapons, for lack of a better word at the moment, that we have available to us. That is an arsenal all on its own. And it's not one of destruction, but one of creation. All things that aren't creation are simply distortion and illusion. No, that's not even there. It's not even real. And so to create that power experience, sometimes in the earlier days of using that love vibration sending experience, there'll be enough energies that you won't notice an impact immediately. Don't give up. There's a lot of, we collect. It's like dust. We got dust all over us, right? And one fleck of dust at a time, after a while, then once you get it cleaned off and in that space of a higher light energy, when things come through, all you got to do is send love to it for like, and back to whatever you're doing. It's not even a thing anymore. So,
yeah, because we get caught up in carrying all the dust bunnies and all the other stuff, because cleaning day isn't until down here, right? So I can't do anything in between. We're all in this this programmed charade of what life is. And you mentioned things about relationships and contracts are just up in relationships, but people don't want to move from their comfort zone. But what they're doing, if they're staying in and they're trying to force something that really isn't fitting, right? Truly isn't fitting this soul's yearning to be free from that bondage, right? You're done with it. It wants to be free to take you to the next level. And until you trust that and really make that move, and once you do that, you begin to trust the next move and the next move and the next move. It's like, oh, I didn't get that job I really wanted. I felt like it. I manifested it. It was so there. I could taste it. I could breathe it. didn't get it. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What happened? What happened? And then a turn of events will occur. Another job will come along. You'll get it and you'll be working in it, and it will open up doors beyond your belief,
Yeah.
even though it didn't look as pretty as this job. And you'll turn around and you'll say, I wasn't supposed to have that job. And I had to feel that, and I had to be able to pivot and dribble my ball this way and open that door and allow it to be. Or it might be that now this job is opened after you're over here, but the circumstances, the business part of it, the bosses are all different, and now you're better in sync with it.
Right.
So we have to look at everything as in our lessons and how do we feel about them, and not to look at everything so down-mouthed.
Yeah.
Many people are very down-mouthed about stuff, and then there are those who are coasting along, expecting everyone else to do the work for them.
Yeah.
And this is not the time frame to let that continue. So you can walk by the dust bunnies. You can walk by the coats of armor you have on yourself and ignore it. That's your journey. People like
Right.
Pamela and myself are not here to convert or solicit to get you to change. You'll find your space for change, and you'll make it according to what feels right for you.
Exactly.
But in the
And that's
I was gonna say, but in the meantime, you have that platform that allows people to come on and experience vocal freedom.
yes. Yeah. And to elaborate on your point a little bit further, it just such I get these visuals, and I'm in such agreement with everything that you're saying. But the I'm trying to learn to not say the word but, and I say it before I start every sentence. So I apologize. And I get this visual of this large buffet. And so those who don't know what that is, it's like a large table with every kind of food, or almost every kind of food. And then you go to it and you pick the things that you want to put on your plate. A lot of individuals interact with these energy exchanges of these spiritual interactions and conversations that we have as I'm going to eat everything on that table. If one of the things on the table doesn't resonate with me, then I'm not going to that table. And that's okay for you, if that's in what you feel like is correct for you. I found doing that is self-defeating. There are so many things at every table that will assist and help me to grow, and to give me that catalyst that I need for the next thing, the next phase of awakening that's occurring and ever evolving. And so listening to somebody, there's a big air right now of concern about somebody who might be misleading. You know, in your heart is what I'm trying to say. You have that spiritual resonance, you discernment, you have that ability to know if it resonates with you or not. And if you can allow yourself to be open to listen to other things, if they don't vibe with you, that's okay. That's not correct for you, you know. And I guess what I'm saying is there's no real rules to this game. You feel it in your heart and you know what's correct, you know. And so, and in this space of change and evolution, you're going to get a different story, just like Sandra said. You know, I found there was a time I hit a deer, and it was so devastating to me. You know, this poor little deer, you know. And I follow a lot of the Native American teachings, spiritual belief system teachings, and deer is gentleness. And I was like, I killed gentleness, you know. And this whole thing, what had occurred in that moment was very hard to comprehend. But the short version is I needed to be delayed. I needed to be delayed right then. And an evolution for my spiritual growth was catalyst off of that. It also delayed me and stopped me from going down here where there was a big giant accident and a lot of people died, you know. And I before knowing that, I was like, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? And those types of things. You never know why, but everything does really truly happen for a reason. I find that there is never uh you know, just on a whim sand, you know, grain of sand. Everything has a purpose. And it's just such a beautiful perfect dance. It feels like a ballet that we're witnessing, that we're part
Mhm.
of. You step back and see the whole field of dominoes that led to right now, and there's no more question. I rambled. I apologize. I just
No, it's okay because all of it's very, very important. When you're talking about the buffet, you have this wide assortment of foods, and it's there for you to be able to pick and choose outside of what you would normally gravitate to or be locked into one plate of food, right?
right.
And a lot of people will still go to those buffets and only go to what they know. And they
Right.
won't even take a little teaspoon and just try something else. And here, I think the message is you can step outside of your box and try things and then make a discernment or a choice if that was for you in the moment. Perhaps the cherry cobbler wasn't the best pick to take after a bite of mashed potatoes, okay? But you don't have to hate either of them. Just
Mhm.
might not been in the sync in the order that the taste buds wanted or that your stomach wanted to hold on to. So before you get out there and try everything and then start vomiting because you can't process
Mhm.
all these things, start with one thing at a time. Just go, okay, today I would like to feel and think a little bit differently. Let me see how I can do that. Put it in your schedule book. I'm going to stop for 5 minutes and just connect with my breath. I'm going to make time on Friday to join Higher Vibration platform. Even if I only have an hour to stay on there, because that's what you're welcome to do. It's usually 3 hours. People pop in and on and off. You don't have to stay for the whole thing. That's a beautiful thing. But what you could learn from there, it's like I'm going to pick and choose some things that help me to stretch and expand my wings and to expand my heart center, not be so locked up on, okay, well, I really have a busy day. I'm not going to be able to do that for until like next week. And again, that's your choice. That's your choice if you want to stay in that bound up, locked up, very stiff environment called your world, or you want to get out there and experience some other seedlings or plant new seeds yourself for broader expansion of the you, of the me, myself, and I in what we call, you know, this universe.
Yeah, exactly. And allowing yourself to stretch out, you find out how far you can. That's like the biggest thing. Like going back to what we talked about, people joining and they're just like this bubble of like really packed up. Once you stretch, you find out that you can expand really far too. And when we let ourselves expand, we find out what we're capable of. When we let go of preconceived notions, whatever they may be, and to just start over again, you know, as if you're a child learning again. Just a lot of those things we don't realize are indoctrinated systems to keep us disempowered or believing that we're not powerful. And when we do that, then you can start to stand in your power and to realize so many things have been right before you this whole time. Over and over and over again, we're told these things. Like Hansel and Gretel, they're breadcrumbs like scattering the planet. And a lot of us have been, accepting of, well, that's not really a breadcrumb. Just give it whatever title it was given. And I like people breaking out and do like there's this new thing right now. A lot of people are going in protest saying that birds aren't real, that they're government controlled, all birds. And I don't know if I am in agreement with that, but I love that. Like, yeah, question everything. Start out, and you don't have to be aggressive and protest it. I mean, I don't,
Exactly.
you do what you do, you
Yeah.
let yourself think, is it real? Is this real? Time isn't real. So what else is not? And once you allow yourself to start over from scratch, learning as a child, you get to learn how beautiful you truly are, that you are a being of light, that you are made from nothing but light. And that light is love. It's the same thing. And with that love, you are changing every place and thing that you interact with in a positive way. Even when you're having a bad day, your energy stepping, you can see the where people step, the energy ripples into the ground. You are doing you, and it's hard. It's a lot of, at first especially, until you find your tribe, until you find your people that you can talk to and know that you're not alone. It's a lonely road. It's hard. And I just want to say thank you. Like it's that you've gone this far, in service, and just don't give up. We're here. There are a lot of us, and you aren't alone. And you're welcome to join. Like we've mentioned, these Zoom meetings. I have them posted in my channel for anyone who is interested, in my community section. I post them the day before a meeting. I meet every Tuesday and every Friday at different times. So just check my community section for the new link. It's a different link every single meeting to clear the energy for a new experience.
That's awesome. And I'm thinking of how knotted up we all are, and you don't realize that until you get on the floor and you begin to stretch or try to find a pose or get out of a kinked shoulder or something, and you've got to grunt your way through it, and then it's almost like, oh my God, why do I bother? This hurts so bad. But after you do it, there's nothing better than having a good stretch.
Yeah.
And nobody can complain after a good stretch. And we've got to stretch our emotional body, our spiritual body, our etheric body, our mental body, and our physical body. And we've got to stretch out and trust that we're fully supported. And more of these tribes and platforms are coming up. Check them out, figure out which ones work for you. This one might work for you for this period of time, and then you jump on another one and it works for you. Then you may come back to this one, you may find another one, and then share it with other people. And I'll have your links in the descriptions below. Is there anything else you want to share before we sign off?
Yeah, just a side note, the energies that are moving through and coming and expanding and swelling are also bringing up, again, they're bringing up some of this debris, the things that we need to look at. And also it's just moving it out of us. And so a lot of us are having an increased ascension symptom experience where your body's doing weird stuff, or you're vibrating, or you're crazy dizzy all of a sudden, or really thirsty, and whatever it is, it's if you are capable or able to take the time to listen to your body's guiding you. Sometimes it's asking you to rest. If you can't rest, if you're at work, I find the toilet's a really good escape place for a couple of minutes to just, it's not really meditation, but it kind of is, just centering yourself, bringing the light from God down and filling yourself back up again before you got to go do the 3D again.
Mm-hmm.
And just be gentle with yourself. It doesn't have to hurt. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable,
So very important. I love everything you just said. And I also tell people, look, just take a potty break, a little longer potty break. Just don't take your phone in there. Leave it out at your desk or, someplace. Just sit there for just a minute or two and allow your body to release in more ways than one, normally a little longer than you normally would, because we have a tendency to be, running to and fro, especially right now. So knowing that we are living, loving, walking columns of light, we have to own it. And it's our job to turn it up, turn it down, tune it in, tune it out, whatever you choose to do that works for you. There's no judgment here. And maybe we'll get to see you on one of Pamela's platforms, because everybody's welcome. And I'll have her links in the descriptions below. And in the meantime, so much love to each and every one of you. Say goodbye, Pamela.
Bye. Thanks for this. This was really beautiful.
Thank you.